Welcome back to another episode with the Brucker Charolais beef. What I'm going to do today is tri-tip. And I'm going to do it kind of in a different way because this is 100% Charolais beef from DC Meats, but it's grass-fed, grain-finished, and then dry-aged. So it's already got a beautiful flavor developed. So I'm not going to marinate this. If it was a lesser quality beef, I definitely would marinate it. But because it's got that dry aging, just really develops the flavors and actually the enzymes that in that dry aging, it creates the enzymes that break down a lot of that toughness and stuff that you might get. So because this is dry aged and I trust my source because the Brucker Charolais really know what they're doing when it comes to raising amazing culinary quality beef. So because of that, I'm just gonna do a dry rub on it, and then I'm gonna let that sit out at room temp, and that dry rub will kind of caramelize on there, and it'll create these beautiful unctuous bits, because the rub that I'm gonna use is actually my own, and I'm gonna do a blackening spice. And in my blackening spice, there's a little bit of brown sugar in there, and that's gonna create these beautiful caramel notes when we sear this off in a super hot grill. And then, but if you don't have my blackening spice, you can use, either just straight salt and pepper, or you can use a Cajun spice and then add a little brown sugar to it. But my Montana Flavor to Savor blackening spice is gonna be amazing with this, because spice needs fat to carry the spice. So I love to use a blackening spice on something like this beautiful tri-tip and all these amazing marbling that's in here. The Charolais beef is just gorgeous with the marbling. So because of that, I like to use a little bit of spice and things like this, because the fat in here will carry the spice from the blackening spice. So that's one of those little fun things to do. And I'm gonna do something. A lot of times if you have a garden, you'll have way too many carrots. Like I'm a private chef, and some of my clients, they plant way too many carrots. But there's so many beautiful greens on the carrot tops. And these have that note that you can kind of, instead of using parsley, I'm gonna use the carrot tops and then a little cilantro. So this is gonna be kind of close to a chimichurri. It's just an herb sauce. And pairing that with some Parmesan asparagus tips and we used to do these herb roasted potatoes at the restaurant all the time, every single day for 10 years, and they're amazing. So let's get cooking, okay? First things we want to do is kind of get this tri-tip ready, and I'm going to do, so it has a fat cap, and I'm just going to trim off some of this fat cap and get it ready. I'm going to grill this first time with the fat cap down and get a nice sear, and then when I flip it over and start grilling it on the back side or on the bottom side, it's going to kind of create that self-basting where the fat cap is going to kind of be pulled down into the meat and be even more tender and juicy and flavorful. Because we all know fat makes flavor. So I'm just going to kind of trim off some of this top here a little bit and just kind of get it prepared. If I see that there's some bruising or kind of a little extra that I don't really want, I'm just going to trim that off. Super simple. So one of the things I like to do on this fat cap is score it. And you're not, it's got this, I do this with all types, like prime rib and so forth. You just kind of score. You're not going all the way through. Some people go a little bit too aggressive. I just want to score it because that's going to help kind of break down that fat cap, but also we're going to be able to get the seasonings kind of rubbed in there. So just kind of score it, probably an inch inch wide. So I do it one side and then the other direction. And then let's just kind of get some of this beautiful blackening. Perfect. And you can get, you know, liberal with this. Don't be afraid. Like I said before, the fat carries the spice. So I'm gonna get every side covered and then just kind of rub it and massage it down into that because we created that scoring. So let's get that rubbed down in there and then do all of the sides. So let's just continue on that. There we go. Gorgeous marbling on here. One of the things that's kind of interesting that I find with DC Meats and DeBrucker Charolais was founded by Lloyd and Jane DeBrucker, and Lloyd tried every other breed of cattle before he settled on Charolais and they settled on Charolais because of its superior quality, and they recognized no other beef had the growth that Charolais cattle do. So they spent a lot of time in that, but then even more impressive, they prioritized the animal welfare and emphasized humane treatment to create a product that's not only delicious, but also ethical and sustainable. So it's just a beautiful program. And if you want to read more about this 60 years of multi-generational cattle ranch in Dutton, Montana, we all know that name, Dutton, especially if you follow Yellowstone, but there's an actual Dutton, Montana. So they have been multi-generational, the whole family's involved in creating this amazing sustainable program out there. I just love how they're doing. They decided to they decided to develop their own grain, but from locally sourced farmers to finish their cattle on. So it's grass-fed in Dutton, Montana, and then grain finished on locally sourced grain. And then they dry age it. And that is, again, why I am not marinating this, because high quality beef that's been dry aged, it's already got that tendered, dry aging creates a real tender process. The best quality beef right here, amazing. So that's beautiful. Now I'm just gonna let that sit at room temp and just kind of dry marinate with that dry rub. And then what we're gonna do is get working on our sides. Okay, so I love this sauce so much. It's very easy, but it adds that extra oomph. And you can make this with almost any type of herbs. I'm gonna do, like I said before, we're gonna do a carrot top and cilantro base because I think that those are gonna be great with everything else that's going on. One of the things with chimichurris is they usually will have like red pepper flakes in it. I'm not gonna do that today because I'm doing that Cajun spice, that blackened spice. So I've got spice here. I wanna have a relief with my herb sauce. I don't wanna have heat on top of heat. So you wanna have something that's gonna really pair nicely with it, but not add more spice on top of more spice. So that's my little point. I've got shallot, garlic, the cilantro, and I took one bunch of cilantro and I actually trimmed off just the top, but I'm gonna save these stem parts. Making a mess. I'm gonna save these stem parts because these are great to go into a marinade. So later on in the next couple of days, I'm gonna do like tequila lime chicken and marinate that and save these cilantro ends for that. Same thing on the carrots. I took the tops of the carrots, but I'm saving the stems for my trim. So that's gonna go in there because you save like carrot and celery and onion for your trim bag along with meat trimmings and so forth if you're gonna do like a beef stock. So I love this sauce so much because it's just so easy. Throw everything into a food processor If you don't have a food processor, you can mince everything really fine. That's fine. That's the traditional way. It's just faster and easier. So we're gonna do that. And I'm gonna do a couple tablespoons of sherry vinegar. And the sherry just adds, I really love sherry vinegar if you want to have something that's got a little bit of punch, but not overwhelming. And then I'm gonna use avocado oil here. So you can use olive oil or another kind of light oil. And I'm just gonna start with this. And as I process it, I might need to add a little bit more. We're just trying to create a consistency that is loose, but not runny. So I'm gonna process this and just kind of pulse through it. Okay, so I think that consistency looks pretty good. I'm liking it. It's herbaceous, it's got that vinegar note. It's just gonna be cleansing the palate with the fatty tri-tip with that little bit of heat and that seasoning. But I am gonna add just a little bit more of oil. So, I'm gonna loosen it up just a little bit more. And then what I love about doing this, and the reason I did this early, is because it needs to kind of set and a little marinate a little bit. Now, one of the other things that I like to add, another spoon, is just a little bit of Dijon. Not a lot, but it's another little pairing that I just love in this sauce. So do that, but I'm using a whole grain Dijon, so I don't really want it to have the blades of the processor break up those seeds. So I'm just gonna stir that in there. And then let's move on to our next ingredients. What I've done with the potatoes is I steamed them for 10 minutes. So, you know, they're relatively small, and just kind of steam those for 10 minutes. From there, after they're steamed, now we're gonna bake them. I'm gonna toss them with a little oil, and we're gonna bake them. And this is what we're going to finish them with. After they come out of the oven, then we're gonna toss them with this garlic herb, a little salt and pepper, and it's gonna be a beautiful pairing with that tri-tip and the Parmesan lemon asparagus. This is a trick from the restaurant days. So we had so much asparagus that we would do. A lot of times when I'm just doing a few, I'll just grab one and find where it breaks and so forth. I do that. Sometimes I'll do it with the whole bunch. However, one of the little tricks is find the thickest piece in your bunch and find where that breaks. Save those for your trim as well. And then you take that one and line it up with the rest, and then that's where your woody ends are typically going to be on the rest. And this is not waste, because this is all going right into our trim that we're going to use for stock making. So now you have all of the beautiful tips. I want to have a beautiful, delicate piece of asparagus. And these are what we call pencil. They're pencil thin, so they won't take hardly any time at all to cook. And what I like to do is just kind of lay them all out like this. To do just a little bit of olive oil. Then lemon zest. Do a little bit on the directly over that, and then I'm going to do a little more after I put my Parmesan on it. I love the Parmesan on top here because it's going to get nice and crispy. We're going to do this in the oven. So you get this beautiful little crispy. And I like to go right down the middle, but it's not completely covered in Parmesan. And then I'm going to do a little bit more fresh zest over the top. Perfect. So right out of the oven, you want to toss those hot potatoes with that herb oil garlic. And I've got the tri-tip resting, so we've got it beautiful grill marks, and so it's just going to rest for at least 20 to 30 minutes. On a steak, you can maybe get by with 10-minute resting, but when you get those bigger cuts like roasts, 3 pounds, because this was almost 4 pounds. Tri-tip. So you really want to let that rest so those juices redistribute. We don't want to lose any of that flavor. Check out this gorgeous grilled tri-tip. I cannot wait. It has been resting, so let's cut into it. Yum. Yum, yum, and more yum. The Parmesan got really nice and crispy and stuff, so I love that. I'm gonna take a couple pieces of tri-tip, go right over and cover kind of the ends. I'm just gonna kind of dollop them around the edges. And then, can't forget the sauce. Go right over the top of that beautiful tri-tip. Yum, and you'll want a little extra of this to kind of go around. So, especially on those potatoes and stuff like that, it goes really good on that too. So I'm going to take a little bite of this and make sure I'm happy, which I know I'm going to be. Sauce. So good. There's just a wonderful balance of that blackening spice with the fat of the tri-tip and then that herbaceous sauce that goes with it. And I know it's going to be really good with one of these potatoes. Happy dance. So make sure you check out DC Meats. They have curated these signature subscription boxes that make it so easy to kind of put together whatever is best on the cuts. Charolais beef for your family, and this is one of those culinary exceptional proteins that you will really, really love. So